Hey, everybody, it is your good friend, Dr. David Proden, the safety doc from down here in the North Star Recording Studio, wishing you a Merry Christmas. It is December 24th, and it is Face Validity Friday. And hey, I am going to do this in honor of, not Thanksgiving, Christmas Eve. I'm going to put on my winter hat. So, all right. And, it wouldn't be Christmas without a little bit of snow. So here we go. It's actually bare ground where I'm at right now. About 40 degrees today. So warmer and not a white Christmas here by the safety dock. So let's talk about what's been happening this week. First is this channel reached 1,000 subscribers. As of today, it is 1,040 subscribers. So pretty awesome. I'm thrilled about that. And we are all set then for that part of monetizing the channel. But the channel needs 4,000 watch hours and currently has about 2,000 watch hours. And weirdly has been decreasing in watch hours, even though I've been releasing shows and I know people are watching, but I went down like 7 watch hours in the last 2 days, which is weird because it should be cumulative, right? It should go up. So everybody's working against the dock here, except all of you. So yeah, anytime you have an opportunity to go in, replay a Face Validity Friday, or if you want to check out any of the 163 shows at the safety dock, the link is up above. You can subscribe. Over here, I'll put it, it's down below, safetyphd.com. Go there. Every show that I have ever done is there, including video, audio, and released in a 700-word blog post. So welcome to our good friend here, Jim McIntosh. He says, there's a bit of snow here on the ground, here in the land of the Red Queen, Governor Whitmer. So, oh my goodness, yes. We are neighbors as far as states go, just separated there by Lake Michigan. So, yeah, we've had winters like this before, and I'm sure we'll get hit up with cold and snow. Apparently, the northern half of the state is supposed to receive more than 30 inches of snow in the next 10 days. So, but anyway, here we are. So the show has again met 1,000 subscribers. Things are awesome. But viewers, so if you can go through, watch a show as you're in the background trying to assemble something that you got for Christmas, and you're like, hey, I'd just like to listen to something as I'm doing this. Here's the show. Before we get started, we've kind of got started, right? This is the most honest book about the $3 billion school safety industry. This is School of Errors, Rethinking School Safety in America, available in hard copy, also in ebook. And now these have been out for a little while, so you can find them used too. They're in a number of libraries, but it is the most honest book ever written about the $3 billion school safety industry. And look, I wrote this one. So, and it's an interesting read right now because a lot of the things done for school safety, which was largely fortification in the last couple of years, you're seeing that type of approach with pandemic safety in schools. So it's a great kind of easement into that discussion. I was a school administrator, so I share the lingo with you. I share the process of how they think about that, how school boards get involved in that, customer perceived value. And it's pretty punchy. So yeah, I'm not a big fan of bollards or surveillance cameras, but that will come out. So yeah, thank you. Greetings to Joe Dolio. Joe and Jim are both in Michigan. So this show is doing really well in Michigan. So go Michigan. All right. Joe Dolio is featured in my upcoming book, The Velocity of Information. And the last couple nights I've been going through the proof on that from the publisher, making sure everything is set where it needs to be set for graphics and figure labels and stuff like that, and just realized how just how powerful Joe's contributions were to discussing indicators to building the member check network. So yeah, after I've read the book 100 times, probably literally now, just keep going through it. It's really good. So greetings, Doc, from our good friend Joe Dolio in the state of Michigan. Jim writes, it's 80 in 82. It was 80 degrees and rainy Michigan weather all the time. Oh my God. Wow. So yeah, I think today could be upper 40s here. I'm glad I don't own a snowmobile, because if you did, you'd have to just drive a trailer way up north for it to be any good. So let's get into Face Validity Friday. I am going to have some kind of intro made for this. Nothing probably outstanding, flashy, but my friend Swamp Dog Armory, we were talking yesterday, and that's kind of his thing. He's really into graphics and stuff like that. And I said, that'd be cool if if you could do that. Just a 30-second intro here to the show. So he's on it. Swamp Dog Armory, our good friend. And he also gave me some interesting face validity, which we will talk about today. And it is Flying Rich. Yo, yo, yo. So I will see Flying Rich and John Crump on John Crump Live, 4 p.m. Central Time on Tuesday, December 28th. The guest, a return guest, I appreciate. So I'm looking forward to that as always. John Crump Live, 4 p.m. December 28th. That is, for me, Central Time. So, and Jim said, my Christmas present to the doc this year, I'll refrain from bad words in chat. So, well, Jim, you are, I think, pretty solid here in chat. Monday night's chat for the safety doc, I don't know what was going on. It was an active chat, and there were a couple of disputes between people, and my moderators needed to jump in and put people back in their corners. So hey, it was and I had watched afterwards to try to figure out what was going on, but it wasn't anything to do with the show. It was to do with a couple of people there. So Merry Christmas back to you, Rich. And he is printing some spare bearings right now for his pool vacuum cleaner, and I'm going to have Rich on the show at some point, and we are going to talk about 3D printing. Like, where do you think it's going? What has the saturation level been? I wrote about it in the Velocity of Information, that we're kind of on this 50-year window right now. So if you go from 1980 to 2000 or 1990 to anyway, I don't know. Maybe it's 1980, maybe 1980 to 2030. I don't have the book in front of me, but you went from warehousing. Make a lot of product, get it in a warehouse, and eventually then you'd have to get rid of it and retool, stuff like that, to just-in-time manufacturing. So you'd still have to retool, but kind of the Toyota approach, not having a lot of stock in warehouses, which then when that gets strained, that's kind of the situation we get in now. But moving from just-in-time to 3D printing, what are you going to print at home? And then also what could be printed regionally? So I was talking about, I read an article, I don't know, it was AutoZone, O'Reilly, something like that. And they said, in the next 5 to 10 years, we expect a large number of our parts. You'll just come in, give us the VIN and tell us, what you want, and we'll print it right there. And they have printers which now can print metal and, stuff like that, or print with metal. So yeah, but I want to go into that a little deeper, because I think we're caught in this phase right now between just-in-time manufacturing and 3D printing. I think that's part of the reason this whole the supply chain shortage, that part of the reason, right, is that a lot of people are unwilling to invest a lot in just-in-time manufacturing when it's likely this is going to go away before long. It's kind of like investing in warehousing when just-in-time was coming in place. It didn't make a lot of sense to invest in warehouse. So I think that's happening, and that's one of the reasons why it's real clunky right now. But eventually, it'll shift over more into the 3D printing, and then I think things are going to get more smooth, not necessarily fixed, but um, so that's a discussion that I want to have with Rich. So let us talk about what is face validity. This is Face Validity Friday. It's our second month into Face Validity Friday. And I do have some good news here, though. I have a visit from somebody you all know at the start of the show. Here that somebody is. Hey, everybody, it's Santa. And I just want to wish all of you a Merry Christmas. I'm stopping in here early at the safety dock because I brought him a lot of presents. And I'm wishing Jim, Flying Rich, Joe Dolio, Solitude Surfer, all you guys, a very Merry Christmas. And Rich, if you're good, I've got an entire crate of plastic PETG, which will be flying down, and I'm going to drop it down your chimney. So ho, 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 everybody. I'm going to turn it back to my friend, the safety doc. Well, hey, Santa. I don't know how he did it. It's a live, kind of cut in a live feed. He's pretty persistent about it, but there he is. And Rich, that's good news for you, because I heard plastic PETG is hard to get. So Santa's on his way. What is face validity? So face validity is your observations. If you have a thermometer and the thermometer reads 88 degrees and it's snowing outside and you're shivering, and so you look in 88 degrees, something's wrong. The thermometer is broken. Okay, thermometer is broken, or your senses are deceiving you. One of the two is happening. That's face validity. And it's our sense of this just doesn't seem right. Something's not right with this. We tend to dismiss that. So if you can pay attention to face validity, if you can recognize it, if you can use the term, if you can explain it to other people and just say, this doesn't seem right, whatever it is, the readout on your car, the weather forecast versus what's happening around you. There's a report in the newspaper, a 2% inflation, and gas just went up $1.50 at your local station, like things like that. So face validity is important because it gets discounted. Nobody teaches it, right? It's nothing you're going to see in newspapers and things like that. And it's also this healthy skepticism. So yeah, looking beyond the headlines, if you use the words "I observed," that's very powerful versus "they said." So you're going to get there. So let's go over here to Jim. 3D printing is an unstoppable technology which nearly eliminates prototyping. Yep. Yeah. And you don't have to change out dyes and all that stuff. I mean, you guys know it. So again, a big part of my book, not big part, but a notable part in philosophy of information is this rapid switch into 3D printing, which is having these other ramifications then down the line. And right now it's bumpy, but a lot of that I anticipate will smooth out. But I think it's one thing people don't think about. So when it comes to that point in the book, I know when people review the book, they're like, oh, I wasn't considering right now that, we're making this transition into 3D printing. And that has to do with some of the stuff that we're seeing. I'm like, yes. So Jim saves a lot of material versus conventional. Yeah, you don't have to cut off all the extra stuff around the outsides and, things like that. So you bet. Joe, I finally found someone more dorky than I am at Christmas. Thank you, Dex. Oh my goodness, that was Santa, Joe. Hey, it's our good friend DLD After Dark. What's up, brother? So hey, DLD. Wishing you a Merry Christmas and thank you so much for everything you've done for this channel. We are up to 1,040 subscribers as of this morning, and one more favor to ask of everybody is to watch the shows. So, because I have 2,000 watch hours right now, and I need to get to 4,000 watch hours to be able to monetize, and part of that is I didn't do shows from January to August because I was writing my book. So I did this wide span where people just had to watch created content. But now there's new stuff out there. So yeah, if you can keep it DLD, you can turn it on loud in the background as you're working on other stuff. an episode, whatever it is. That Larry Lawton one's a good one. The one with Clay Martin, who wrote Prairie Fire and Concrete Jungle. I think that show has over 3,000 views. So it's really good. Joe Dolio was on the show. So yeah, just scroll down but I need a few people to kind of get in my corner on that and it's weird because when I checked this morning, I was down 7 watch hours. So I'm like, well, how did that happen? Because I released the show on Monday and there were a lot of people watching the show, and the algorithms, everybody's working against the doc here. So except you guys, but it's crazy. So congrats on 1,000 subs. Hey, thank you, Alex. I appreciate it. DLD, I'm sick. I'm sick as a sick bat. The doctors now. Oh no. I hope you feel better. Oh God. So take it easy, buddy. And it sucks to be sick here on Christmas. So yeah, as I would say, hydrate, get some Gatorade in you, and potato chips. And I'm not kidding about the potato chips thing. I'm not a physician, but I do believe, I think keeping like salt and electrolytes is a good thing. So haven't worked in plastic manufacturing for decades. The old memory banks are rather dusty for that knowledge, Jim. I took a plastics class my last year in high school. It wasn't 3D printing, though. It was all mold plastics. So our good buddy Swamp Dog Armory, let me put him down here. Swampy did a show last night. He is really moving fast with his stuff in a good way. So and it's funny because he produces this, not Swamo. So I just Swamp. He's like, who's Swamo Dog Armory? It's a knockoff. It's a knockoff armory. It's not nearly as good. Swamp Dog Armory. So all right. Swamp Dog Armory said he's going to be doing more with his channel. He's buying more equipment for his channel. But a lot of his software is all like free version stuff, or just kind of beta stuff that you don't have to pay for. And he learns it, and he's great at it, rendering this. And he's got it down. So he's producing great stuff. So Swamp Dog Armory. DLD said, I just hit 2 million watch minutes. That's awesome, buddy. So good job. Like, yeah, that's what I'm aspiring. Yeah. To kind of get somewhere in that range, or divide that out and it gets to 4,000 hours, but awesome. Good job. I mean, no, you've been putting a lot of content out there. Always appreciate your shows. If I see the lights on, I'll hop in. I said the last couple nights and stuff have been busy with this proofing stuff. So, yeah, I'm like, the diagram needs to be on the left page, and like the note for it needs to be on the right. Well, that kind of goes against our floating stuff. I'm like, yeah, I get it. But it's like a visual thing. Like, it has to work that way. So, anyway, just trust me. I know what I'm doing here. So, Jim wrote, take vitamin D. So he's got it down there. I'm also a proponent of vitamin D. So, and in summer I bike. I soak up the sun, making the natural vitamin D. So let's go a couple more here, and then we're going to get into our first one. Swamp Dog Armory, giving him a shout out. He is working crazy hours as a deer processing and a butcher, and someone who actually does show up to work. and it's crazy. He's putting in so many hours, but yeah, Swampy. So it's not, yeah, I guess Swamp Dog Armory. Yeah, I guess I won't call him Swampy. And he's getting a gimbal for his camera, so he's excited about that. Shared it out with me yesterday. So his channel is going to explode. He's got so much great content ready to go, especially with processing of deer and other things, and processing meats and showing step-by-step video stuff. And anyway, it's good. So it's our good friend Carl H. Hey, he's here. He's running late, but he's Carl H. So, Carl, welcome to you. And yeah, I've been going through that, going through my book. I always get to the section where Carl and I were talking about, and when Carl was a guest on my show, we talked about what might it look like at a big box store, let's say of March, April, May 2020, if there was a intent to decrease like personal aerosols, in the air, and obviously stuff like that. Like, what would it look like? And you'd come in if it was PPE and it was other type of measures. But anyway, you'd come in maybe going like this white biohazard how they gown you up and you'd have gloves and a mask and stuff. It would be all store issued, so it'd be inter-rater reliability. They knew it was the same for everyone, and then as you got out, they would have you get rid of the stuff, which never happened. But it's in the book. It's great stuff. That was informed by Carl, so appreciate it, buddy. Jim, thanks for great health. The CDC FDA guidelines are out of date for indoors. No sunshine life. Yeah, way too bad. There was a study called the Hishong Mahone Group study. Hishong Mahone. Mahone. Hishong. Let's do it. Hishong. It's probably completely wrong, but this was the title. I referenced it in my other book, Daylighting in Schools. So a study that was done in the Pacific Northwest and basically was looking at the effect of sunlight on academic performance, behavior, all of that, and thousands of schoolrooms, things like that. So measuring sunlight coming in, how much natural sunlight, how much, and strong correlations, more sunlight, healthier kids, better test scores, stuff like that. So, yeah, you never see that anymore. And why not? Because like you can't sell sunlight. You can maybe make a pitch for, when you're building a school to have more windows put in or something like that. But like you can't sell sunlight. So, natural sunlight, right? Just stuff coming in from outside or kids being outside getting sun. So it doesn't get any marketing. I'd laugh because in Wisconsin, we have our state school board convention coming up in January. And I was looking through what the breakout sessions are. And, most of them are all completely out of touch with what needs to be discussed today. And like this would be a great one, right? The impact of sunlight, the Hishong Mahone Group study, daylighting in schools, and especially now, and the impact on health and immunization. But no, they won't cover that. So doesn't matter. I'm not there. New Jersey's largest school district went remote. Teachers are lazy. This per Carl. Unions just garbage for more money. So, well, that kind of opens up the door here for our first story. And this is from New Jersey. Believe it or not, this is from New Jersey. This is from NewJersey.com. Oh, wait a second. Before I get to that, let me go back to Swamp Dog before I forget this because I put a note. So Swamp Dog, who's Cody, Cody and I spoke yesterday, and he said, hey, from Face Validity, you did a show a couple of weeks back where we were talking about shrinkflation, where things were being packaged in smaller packages but sold for the same price. So you still think you're getting whatever, like a family-sized box of cereal, but now it's smaller, but it's labeled family size. And he said, I see that in my industry in two areas. So he is a butcher. And he said, the first area it's called Hanks, and I'm like, I didn't know what this was, but this is fascinating, right? Hanks. So Hanks are basically the intestines or the tube that you put the meat into to make sausage. Right. So he said the Hanks that we are receiving now are shorter than the Hanks that we always got in the past. So now instead of making however many sausages out of these Hanks, you're making fewer because the Hanks aren't as long. So that's something he said. Yeah. And, no one said anything. And I think it's still the same price. And it's just called a box of Hanks. Right. So that's one thing with shrinkflation. He said the other thing is that the seasoning used to arrive in a 50-gallon drum. And now the seasoning is, so it was all by weight. And he said now it's shipped in smaller boxes. So you kind of get like a box and it's not so much tied to weight. So he said, where, so he goes, just where I'm at, like instead of having 2 barrels of seasoning, now we have like 50 boxes stacked against the wall. So, it could be this thing where it's a shortage of barrels and stuff like that, but it is also the trying to break that down so people are ending up either buying more product or he's not getting the bulk rate on that anymore. So shrinkflation is breaking that into smaller portions. And so, yeah, Hanks and seasoning. So, Hanks. All right. NewJersey.com. This was shared by an agent in the field, Ted. I believe, Carl, he's your friend. And this is New Jersey's largest school district preps for possibility of remote learning after winter breaks. So I'm going to bring this one up right here. All right. So let's do the share screen. Okay. So here it is. Let's get it larger. Okay. This is updated December 22nd and by Steve Strunsky from New Jersey Advanced Media, NJ.com. New Jersey's largest school district preps for possibility of remote learning after winter. Let's read a little bit. As the coronavirus surges, New Jersey's largest school district is preparing for the possibility of returning to remote either after the holiday break. Staff members and parents of Newark Public Schools, 38,000 students, were advised of this possibility in a letter Monday from the superintendent. So, okay. So let's think about what this means. Face validity. If this comes out right, New Jersey's largest school district preps for possibility of remote learning after winter break. So to me, this is more like priming of just saying expect not to be back after winter break from Face Validity. I did a little more research into this to try to figure out what the schools were telling people. And they were saying, hey, bring home personal belongings, right? Bring home your Chromebook and your backpack and clean out your locker. And when you have that kind of stuff being communicated, it pretty much means the decision's been made, right? And I shared this in last week's Face Validity. I don't know if it was last week's Face Validity or Monday. No, it was Monday night on the Safety Doc. Last week, the CDC came out with new guidance for schools saying, in order for students to remain in school, if they're a close contact to someone who has tested positive, they would need to also take a test to remain in school. That's not the current process right now. If the student is feeling ill, then they're advised to take a test. And if they're positive, they need to stay home for a certain amount of time per the school district. And if they feel okay, then they can just stay in school. They don't need to be tested. So I looked at that and I was like, okay, one, schools are understaffed. There's a shortage of workers and they don't have the ability to contact trace other than doing this through largely their software. Where I'm at, there's 421 school districts. And I can tell you quite surely that only a handful of those have anybody assigned to be a contact tracer. So part of this, and I predicted this on Monday, was schools are going to look at this and say, well, if we're not going to be in compliance with CDC guidance, CDC is not a law, it's not an order, but there's no federal guidance on this. States are very limited on the guidance that they give. Counties are supposed to give the guidance. They chicken out. They don't do it. So they just leave it to the schools. The schools need to have some kind of legal defense, some legally defendable position. They need to inform themselves through some source. If they can benchmark to, for example, the CDC and say, hey, we made this decision on masking or to go remote based upon the CDC, or, the CDC was saying they recommend test to stay, but we don't have the staff to do that. We can't get the test to do that. Who's going to pay for the test, right? Because now some insurance companies are saying that's going to not be covered. So schools are going to be moving in this direction. So again, face validity, what is propelling this? Part of it could be, right, an uptick in cases. Another part of this is what I spoke about on Monday's Safety Doc, and that is this new CDC guidance of test to stay. It's an incredible burden for school districts, almost impossible practically to stay on top of that. So if you're a school board in a district and you have your school board's attorney and these discussions, you're going to be like, nope, we're going to go remote until the CDC backs off of that. So, yep. And the whole thing too is when they say the possibility of remote, but yet they're telling you to bring everything home, the face validity on that says you're not coming back. And I would guess they're not coming back until April, maybe. So I would guess. Yeah. And this is to whipsaw from teaching in person to teaching online and remote is very difficult. I instruct courses at a university level for the last 20 years. I teach face-to-face in fall legal issue courses, and I teach remote in spring. Remote is much more difficult, even though these are largely the same classes. There's more to keep tabs on. You don't have the benefit of people in real time being able to ask questions, being able to kind of read your students, like read the audience, what is happening. So yeah, this is going to take a toll. But anyway, this is where we're at. The face validity is possibility of remote learning. I'd say no. It'll happen. So let's get out of that one. That was our first one from New Jersey. Let's go over here. And Jim is saying best solution is to go outside. Well, it is. Or Carl, you're right. Remember that daylighting in school study? Boy, oh boy. Well done. And we need to get people outside and kids outside and sunshine and windows in schools. An interesting thing too, I was looking at school designs over the last 10 years, and in areas where there had been school shootings and there were referendums to build new schools, a lot of these schools were built without windows, like on a first floor, or very, very small windows, or very high windows, not very large, but smaller windows. And the thought was, of course, to keep intruders out. And then what they're doing is just adding more fluorescent light or LED lights or whatever, but it's not the same as natural sunlight. So, Carl wrote, if it's a biohazard, treat it like one. Don't throw it on your windshield. That's logical inconsistent. So, yeah. And, I'm glad I wrote about that in the book, and that was informed by Carl, because it is so important. And I don't think I used actually the word biohazard. I was kind of measuring some of the words, but I gave the full description, Carl, that we talked about. Like, imagine walking into the store, and this was a real possibility, like back like last March or April, and you'd have to stop and they'd say, okay, you have to wear these gloves, you have to wear this mask and this face shield. And when you leave, like someone will guide you to deposit it into this, sharps area. So then the store could say, we have inter-rater reliability consistency across everybody, and we know that our stuff has X amount of efficiency, right? Preventing aerosols or whatever. So just saying, in a real fidelity situation in which Carl knows, like, that would have been the case. I take vitamin D in winter especially. Yeah, so do I. In summer, I get plenty of D being out biking, but I have to actually load up on my vitamin D. I'm a little down on my stock. By the way, guys, I grabbed some coffee here. An interesting story to share about my Walgreens experience. This is good. Hey, get more subscribers in here. Don't bail. All right. You leave me no choice. Just a second. I got a friend. Hey, buddy, you want to come in here? I'm going to clip him in. Hey, everybody, this is Frosty the Snowman. Hey, like, stick in here and watch Doc's channel. This is good stuff. So, yeah, don't bail out here because I'm Frosty the Snowman. I can tell you, like, when I'm not here, things aren't that great. So, like, we don't want the Doc to take off either. So, let's everybody watch his channel. Merry Christmas. Well, yeah, Frosty the Snowman just cut in. So, yeah. So, wow. Flying Rich, Cody's cool with being called Swampy now. So, all right, Cody's a good guy. So, Jim, sunshine isn't monetized, which I hate. Yeah, it's always crazy when I talk about things that you can't monetize, but they're really smart to do. One is like sunlight, which you guys know. Like, I'm not inventing this, but I'm just echoing it as like a safety expert, right? The sunshine. Getting kids to know their environment through things like geocaching, right? And their attention to their environment. You can do fun things with geocaching and tie curriculum into it. Things like Kim's game, putting stuff out on a table and having kids identify, here you get 60 seconds and we've got 20 things out there, and then we're going to cover them up or whatever, take them away and take a picture. What was out there? Okay, well, there was a pencil, there was a golf ball, there was this. Okay, and what color was it? How many things were made of wood and stuff like that? So Kim's game for situational awareness. But again, you can't monetize Kim's game. I saw somebody try to do it once. I shouldn't say that. You can try to do it. I saw somebody once put together a kit, and I think they sold it for like $90, and it was Kim's game. And then you'd use this kit with kids. I think it was like for special education. When I was a special education director, yeah, I did see this. And you'd put these things out on a table, right? And they had rules. It was just Kim's game. But they sold it for like $90, and basically it was $5 worth of stuff that they bought and put in it in this kit, which was stuff. It was completely ridiculous, right? It was, anybody could just put anything. It would take me a minute to find 20 items right around me to put into something for a Kim's game. So yeah, somebody did actually monetize, make it a kit and convince somebody to buy it. So crazy. That's why like School of Errors, if you're an industry person in school safety, a vendor, the book is, poison, because it tells people you can do things without having to spend a lot of money. And if you're running these big expensive conferences and bringing your speakers and your vendors, you don't want me there saying, oh, by the way, this is great and it's free and here's the efficacy behind it. So please tell us in the Cherry Hill district, or is it up north? So yeah, whoa. So let's see here. This is from Jim. I've noticed this for years. It's really bad with postage. How much weight does a first class stamp carry these days? The shrinkflation. I think it's maybe 1 ounce, maybe 2. It used to be 4 ounces. That's great. Yeah. I think I just mailed a thank you card today, but it was a little bit heavier. But even though it's a smaller card, I'm doing this. I'm like, I don't know, like it'll just go. But I think the post office, largely, if it's close right now, they let it go. But you're right. Like if you take it in and get measured, if I would take it in, they'd largely say, no, you've got to add 6 cents to this or something. Yeah, that's a good thing with, you're talking about that shrinkflation. God. And I remember growing up and what a stamp was like 15, 20 cents. So let us see here. Okay. Jim wrote, bacteria apparently are evolving to munch plastic back to paper and metal, maybe in our lifetime. I've read about that. Yeah. So, there is like this fear that if you did this wrong, the bacteria would just eat up everything. I think it's called like a gray goo theory. So I don't think it's going to happen, right? But there is this thing of, if it gets out of there, this would be be bad. And then they're putting oysters and polluted waterways to clean them up, which is good. Phil Henry, Merry Christmas from Old Europe, Doc. Merry Christmas to you, Phil, our friend in Germany. Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. So I am going to bring in Phil right now, just live into the show for just a moment. And everybody, here's Phil Henry. Hey, Doc, it's your good friend Phil Henry here. I'm out in rural Germany. Connection not that great. Just want to wish all you guys Merry Christmas. All right, this is Phil Henry, and I'm out. Hey, Phil. Well, thanks for stopping in. So looks like good weather by you. So hope you have a good day. All right. So Carl wrote, if you can throw your unqualified PPE on a kitchen table, the only thing that got saved was nobody. If anything is a mess, nothing is a mess. Yeah. Wrote about that also in the Velocity of Information, where there was a point, maybe August, September of 2020, a mask became a fashion accessory. There were over 1 million masks for sale on Etsy. So some of them had rhinestones punched into them. With that, Etsy did have a disclaimer right up front saying these aren't medical grade and our sellers can't make medical grade claims. So kudos to Etsy on that. So basically the assumption was you'd wear this mask like over a mask. But so yeah, that's in the book, over 1 million. But a lot of people write they probably didn't do that. It's our good friend Swamp Dog Armory, Cody. So Cody had a really popular show last night. So that guy is on a trajectory. His show is going to take off. Plus, he's learned the grassroots stuff and the technology, and he's investing in some new technology. And so, but he's got a good theme. He's methodical with it, and it's easy to tell. He's taking kind of the scientific approach to it. Plus, he just has really good content knowledge. So he's going to have a great channel. It's going to be taken off. It's already taken off, but I mean, I'm excited. So good job, Cody. So let us, Carl, with USPS is on life support. Most of our bills are now digital. Yeah, I pay mine. It's been taking stuff forever to get, I don't know, mail. So Cody's getting back to work. Cody, the best thing to do when you're working is to listen with the safety doc in the background. So, but yeah, keep working, buddy. And you work with knives, so be careful. All Pro Lemonton is here, falling in, hey, buddy. All Pro Lemonton, our good buddy. All Pro Lemonton. Let's go to our second article. So our first one was New Jersey. Our second one here is from Arizona Independent News Network, our good friends down there in Arizona. I thought this is an interesting article. So let's check it out here. So let's, I got to make the size bigger here. All right. Arizona communities approach growing panhandler presence with caution. Okay, so that's the headline. Arizona communities approach growing panhandler presence with caution. So right here is the article. It's by staff reporter. So anytime you do that, that's not very cool as a news outlet. You've got to acknowledge who writes the stuff. You just don't say staff reporter. But anyway, and that's hard to cite. As an author, when you try to do that, in Chicago style citation, and you can't pin it down to somebody who wrote it, that's not easy. But so this person's saying, please help me. I have 3 children. I have no money, no rent money. So, all right. So what is happening here is panhandling is legal. It is protected by First Amendment, panhandling. Okay. But here in Arizona, some of the, some of the communities are, I guess, trying to have less panhandlers by telling people don't give money to the panhandlers. And part of that is by putting up these signs, which we see right here. It's okay to say no to panhandlers. Give instead to agencies that help those in need. And then there's some like website down here, which is blurred out and something like that. So let me read this because this is an interesting face validity one. So here, a panhandler in North Scottsdale this week held a sign advising drivers that he and his family are new to America and have no money for rent. Okay, across Arizona, communities are considering various humane ways to curb panhandling. Some cities like Mesa and Scottsdale have come up with cautious plans that include discouraging the public from giving money directly to beggars and opt instead to donate to organizations that serve people in need. In Scottsdale, signs have been placed at several intersections advising people in the public it's okay to say no to panhandling. Those passerbys wishing to help are encouraged to go through social services programs. In Mesa, get this. This is the part that I think is pretty wild. In Mesa, the signs read, it's okay to say no to panhandling. Text AZMSEA hand up to 468-311 to learn how you can give a hand up and not a hand out. Okay. Wow. All right. So what's the face validity? Anybody want to jump in on this one? What's our face validity check? We've got this headline: Arizona communities approach growing panhandler with presence. And we went through this. What's the face validity of what's really going on here? So, Bueller, anybody? Okay, well, let me jump into this one. So they're saying, all right, so they don't want this, right? For various reasons. I don't know, for their retailers, for people visiting the community, for community members, whatever it is. So their approach to this, though, is to put up a sign and then put up a sign that you have to text something, right? And then you have to, so it's crazy. So imagine you're driving and you see some people panhandling, then there's a sign and the sign says text AZMESA, Arizona Mesa, hand up to 468-311. How are you going to do that? You're driving. Like, how are you going to know that? This is crazy. And these signs already have a lot of information on them. So you don't do that. That's complete as a face validity thing. This is not trying to solve anything because you never tested this out with people. Like, right? There's no way you took, just some people from the Mesa area and said, hey, if we had a sign out here, or like, you drive by the sign and what do you remember from it? Or what was the number to text? Or was there a number to text? It's ridiculous. You'd never do this. So this is a feel-good thing. This is a contemporary solution, right? It doesn't really solve anything. So, all right, I'm going to switch this just a second. All right. So Arizona communities approach going panhandler presence with caution. So yeah, just by putting up a sign. So face validity, they're not trying to change anything. They're just trying to get people who are bothering the city council about this to get off their backs. So, but yeah, this is like last week in face validity when I went to Walgreens and they had the tripod out for Salvation Army, but there wasn't a kettle. Instead, there was just a sign and it said, hey, you can text this number, like L1005SL and, whatever it was. And then you can make your donation that way. Like, no one's going to do that. From a face validity standpoint, no one's going to do that. So it's more like symbolic of we're doing something. We can say that we tried, but we're not really trying. So yeah, I just think this is crazy. So I don't know. If I was the panhandler, I would just take the sign down. Yeah. So, and honestly, like, it's almost a safety issue too, because I'm looking and so let's bring this thing up again. this sign is close to an intersection, this blue sign here, and you've got people right there. So like you're supposed to be, and you got another sign, something only up here, but you're supposed to be reading the sign and then the print gets progressively smaller. Um, you're not walking past this likely. So I, I just, it's crazy. Like there's so many levels. Like this is just not a good idea, just virtue signaling. So, all right. Um, Hey, it's our good friend Bolo. Bolo, one can't tax a cash donation directly to the needy. So, yeah, yeah, that's interesting, right? Are we trying to keep track of transactions, or are these organizations out there trying to also make it appear that they're doing more because now they're forcing people instead of directly giving to panhandlers to go through them so that it can be tracked and these agencies can say, look at us, like we're doing more. It is so weird. But yeah. Carl wrote, New Jersey has this too. Don't give text to blah, blah. It's about dissolving fellowship and community. We have to be apart and isolate. Yeah. The whole thing of like text whatever, or text this, or text your donation, or I mean, like no one's doing that. And everybody, you know that if you were to actually sample, if you sampled 10 people, and one, did you see that you could text? Maybe two people say, yeah, there was a thing down there. I think you could text. Are you going to do it? Nobody's going to do it. So, and then, so why is it there? Well, it's there, right, for virtue signaling. So, Jim wrote, I give to charity that I know will give to people, but I don't know where the money goes. If I don't know where the money goes, no money. Absolutely. We tried, but didn't work, so it's your fault. Yeah, Carl, there's this weird reflexive blaming you can do out of this, right? Like, it's right. It's your fault. It was out there. You didn't donate, or whatever. People didn't follow this. So we put the sign up. God, that is something. Phil Henry wrote, it's a psychological framing of the Panhandler. Some are really in need. So, yeah. Let's go on to, thanks everybody. Let's go on to our third article. This is from the Canadian Free Press. The Canadian Free Press. This article is Cancer Research Replication Problem. So let's bring this one up. Okay, Canadian Free Press. All right, let's do the, oh, no. There we go. Okay. The Canadian, this is by Jack Deeney, December 23rd, 2021, Cancer Research Replication Problem. So an eight-year project that tried to reproduce the findings of key cancer biology studies has finally concluded that its findings suggest that, similar to research in the social sciences, cancer research has a replication problem. The effort to replicate nearly 200 preclinical cancer experiments generated buzz from 2010 to 2012 found that only a quarter could be reproduced. Researchers with the reproducibility project Cancer Biology aim to replicate 193 experiments from 53 top cancer papers published from 2010 to 2012, but only a quarter of those could be reproduced. So face validity, cancer research replication problem. We're basically saying, yeah, these are reputable. These were reputable studies, and now we're trying to go in and reproduce them, and we can't. So like 3 out of 4 of these, we can't reproduce these. So it's, imagine like if you're cooking, right, and you had a recipe, but you get recipes then for these things at a restaurant, and then you try to make them and only 25% of them turn out, the others don't, and you're like, well, why not? What's up here? I've got the recipe. And so this is a big issue, right? Like if we can't reproduce research, what value is research, because this should be, similar to a recipe. Not everything is going to completely replicate. Control groups change, what people have been exposed to, things like that change and whatever. But largely, more than 25% of this should be replicable, especially after 10 years. So phase validity, the hit on this is, this doesn't make sense. Like, there's no way just 25% of these studies, because in a study you have to go through your procedures and all of that is laid out. And if you have especially the inside details on that, and you're trying to reproduce that, and you can't in 75% of the cases, then what's really going on here? Either this wasn't documented thoroughly, either there's bias that worked its way into the studies, something's happening. But if you're making decisions about cancer treatment based upon studies that you cannot replicate from phase validity, that is bad, right? This is very dangerous. So yeah, wouldn't you want to throw on from a phase validity standpoint right here, wouldn't you want to throw on the brakes or revisit your entire scientific process and saying, we need more clarity, or how can we increase how we're documenting how we conduct our studies, and getting more information on our groups and so forth, and our step-by-step, so then we can test that and see if we have a higher ability to reproduce these studies. But it's not what's happening. This is alarming stuff, right? This is alarming. It's very unlikely you'd be able to replicate at 100%, but you should, I would say as a researcher, right, after 10 years, if that 75% range, certainly. If you have cancer research and you're trying to replicate these research studies and you can only do it 1 out of 4 times, it's a problem. So either it's a problem in design for phase validity, or it's a problem in bias on this. But then, like, why aren't we throwing on the brakes if certain procedures, certain protocols for therapy are happening because of these? And you're like, hey, by the way, we can't replicate this. Like, that should be a big red flag right there. And why isn't it? So from phase validity. And another thing from phase validity is, like, try to find as much research and as much corroborating studies and opinions as you can on things like this, especially if it impacts you. So let's go over to the chat. Pans and Fleischmann, anyone? This is from Carl. Cold fusion in the late 80s, early 90s. Science says can't replicate. Then it ain't working. That's science. Patty, well, welcome, Patty. Hello, safety.com news sent from BW. Well, thank you very much. Yes, BW is going to be a guest on my show. And we are going to center a show around if you are the recipient of stalking behaviors for safety, how do you identify that? What actions can you take? I've done some research on that. I did a show, safety doc episode with Hector Solis on the topic of child grooming and signs to watch for, how to approach that. That was a very popular show, contributed to the public knowledge base. This will be kind of a show that will couple with that somewhat, because it seems like this is happening more and more. What should you do? How do you identify it? How do you identify it in friends? What's it like if you're the recipient? So the experiences that you go through, who are the resources, what aren't going to be your resources to help you out. So, but anyway, Patty, thank you. If you haven't subscribed, please subscribe. And if you want to watch 1,000 hours of the show, that would get me 50% closer to where I need to be for monetization. So you could do it. So thank you, Patty. Carl, but I have the recipe. Now I can explain real science, kids. So yeah. So, right, Carl, imagine, like, I mean, this is like an interesting journal article, right? Like, just to say, look at the inter-rater reliability with restaurants, for example, and products and recipes, or building and construction and blueprints, things like that, like to be able to replicate cars. Like, And the fact, like, when you get into research, you can't do that. And again, not exactly the same thing, but you should be able to replicate at higher than 25%. If you're making decisions also their life and death based upon that, yikes. Jim, just a few years back, recovering persons could get a job at Salvation Army. Now I don't know, but all these places go woke. Go to St. DePaul or Goodwill instead. Yeah, we have both of those in our community, by the way. So Goodwill is a great place to look for gently used sport coats for like $10. So I've never bought a new sport coat. So, and actually I need to add a navy blue sport coat. So hand up, I can answer that. Scientific method, anyone? Yeah. Scientific method, Carl, you bet. So, and I think I did a show on the scientific method, or I wrote about it in School of Airs. But if you just type it in, there's like 7 steps to the scientific method. Like, what is your hypothesis, and how are you going to measure? What's your baseline? Are you going to measure from baseline? What are your findings? And also, then I think another part of this is metadata. What are you? How are you accounting for all of the variables and things like that, and documenting and pre-numeration of what happened first, what happened second? I don't know. It seems like we should be getting better at this, and we're getting worse. And I think part of that is the influence of dollars on research. That's one thing, and then people are rushing, or I don't know if people are just, but we're not getting better at this at all. So, could be materials, methods, or procedures. Yeah, and if it is, that should be noted, right? Or even that you would archive, if it's highly important, you'd keep these in an archive, kind of almost, like in a box for some of the materials and some of that stuff, almost like museum quality. I mean, it's kind of like doing the moon landing and erasing some of the videotape of that. So it just seems really crazy. Like, you have these very important studies, and you don't have enough to go in and forensically replicate these with a high level of reliability. So from face value, it just doesn't make sense, especially like if it's in the last 10 years. I mean, it's one thing if you're trying to go back to Edison's lab, but so Jim wrote, I like the Volunteers of America. It helps veterans and funds stay in your state versus God alone knows where. Yeah. And Jim, I am going to do a Safety Doc podcast on like community civic organizations. So that's coming up. That's maybe in the next 2 months. Things like the JCs, Rotary. Maybe I will have Luke Risner on for that one. The Cincinnati Piper. But, these were pretty robust in communities. When I was growing up, my community had 1,200 people. We had a strong Lions Club, JCs, Rotary, VFW, all came together for a number of things. The VFW sponsored the local ballpark. We had one baseball diamond in town, VFW field, and they paid for the umpires, and they paid for keeping up the ballpark. I mean, it wasn't anything fancy, but I mean, they did that. They ran the concession stands. They volunteered. The JCs built a park down by the river, my hometown, still very popular, but like all these organizations are largely gone. They've just dwindled, right? So when we lose these civic organizations, what does that mean? Because to me, that was a big vesting in the community. A lot of these people are ages 20 to 40 outside of VFW, but and now they're gone. Maybe they work remote, or they're just not interacting with people. But the other effect is you're just having this vesting in the community. When I was a kid, I was maybe like 10, 11 years old. It was the VFW baseball field was a block away from my house. And they redid the bleachers, they had volunteers, and stuff like that, went and just wooden bleachers, stuff like that. And I went with my friend Gerald, and we had like 100-foot tape measure, like a cloth one. And then we measured from home base to center field, left field, and right field to the fence. And then I wrote down the distance for all of those. And then I went home and I took plywood and I cut out 3 pieces of plywood, like like 1 by, 2, 1 foot by 2 foot, and then, primed, painted, all of that stuff. And then I carefully overlaid numbers. So the distance, so center field, like 240 feet, and left field 220, and right field 230, whatever it was. And then I painted it. And, it wasn't like perfect. It was like a 10-year-old. It was pretty good though. And then drilled holes in it, had some wires so I could wire it to the fence, and put a layer of shellac on it. And I went up there then, one night with my friend, same guy that helped me measure, Gerald. And I never asked permission for this, right? And we went up and we put these up on the fence because I didn't want to really take credit for it. And then, so the next day, like we're out there playing and people are like, oh, like somebody put like distance signs up on the fence, and they're really cool. Like they stayed there for maybe 3-4 years until they just got weathered, and then somebody took them down. But it was one of those things because I saw the VFW working on the bleachers, and their folks and their volunteers and things like that. I was just like, well, here's what I'm going to do, to help out. And but I'm saying these like community organizations, yeah, or else what we would see right now, right now, everybody, what we'd see there is we'd see a sign that would be up on the fence by the ballpark saying, hey, if you want to help the fence or help the ballpark, text to this number, and then somebody will take your donation and we'll do whatever. So yeah, so but yeah, so let's go and keep checking out. Carl wrote, Habitat for Mandy, and pick up, please. Okay. Patty wrote, oh, good. I adore her. She is one of my favorites. She is unique, and that's why I enjoy her. So, talking about her other show where BW is on, so she'll be coming over. So, yeah, I appreciate her. She's genuine, and thankfully, I didn't know her until a month ago. So, but that's the great thing when you start to know people and start to find out their channels. And I donate to Market Street Mission every 3 months in memory of my mom. Very cool, Carl. That's very nice. Nice job, buddy. One thing we're kind of getting off a little bit, but one thing I did for like 4 years is I donated my time, I guess, and my skills. We had our community had a Saturday, every other Saturday did a community lunch, and it was in this old hall of this church, close next to our fire station. But so it was wooden floor, and so it was kind of a cool setup. I think it was like 100 years old, and they had a kitchen then off of the hall, so volunteers would show up, and it would be different groups that would come in. But I was like one of the regulars, like I was always there, like me and a few others. So I would show up early. We'd put the sign outside, like free lunch day. We'd set up the hall. I would help with some of the cooking and greet people and stuff, and then go around and make sure. Part of it was like you just were talking to people. It was funny because most people thought I was a priest. Honestly, most people who were there, they would always say Father, or like, hey, Father, would you pray with me on this? And I'd be, I'm not a priest. But it was I don't know, I was very priestly back when I did that. But it was that was a strong community building thing, and I enjoyed talking to people. I remember this guy talking to me, right? And he's like, hey, I used to work at the orange juice factory, which was like in the next town, like 50 years ago or whatever. And he's like, we had to replace the machinery every so many months because the orange juice was so acidic it would just like eat through it. And I'm like, whoa, like that's crazy. And then but then you're kind of thinking, oh, like I never knew that this. And then you're probably like drinking some of that metal and stuff like that too. I don't know, but oh, they'd have these amazing stories. There's people wanted to talk. And there was a lady who came in, and elderly lady, and she brought a small stack of coupons from the newspaper and things. And she didn't have she wasn't able to cut them out because she had like some ataxia, some muscular ataxia. So anyway, fine motor to do that with her hands, she couldn't. So she brought these in, and then she said, could anybody cut out some of these coupons for me? Which took about 2 minutes, right? And so I just kind of got to be the go-to person. Like, she would bring in, these coupons, and either would have a scissors, or I like brought a scissors or something. I don't know what it was, but and I would cut out the coupons, and then I think I always brought an envelope. So then she didn't have to just put these loose coupons in her purse. And I did that every day. Every day I was there for her, is to do that. And then I think I even brought in some coupons if I knew that they were probably similar things to like what she was cutting out. But that was really just a cool thing. And I don't know, that'll be more of like a Monday night show when we get into that service thing. But that was a good thing. That doesn't exist anymore. They stopped doing that meal. They couldn't get volunteers to keep it going, so it just went away. And one of the days, we had a local restaurateur who approached us and had this like side of beef or whatever, and wanted to donate it. And then he came in and helped, and we made these beef brisket sandwiches, which were like these were class A restaurant style sandwiches. So like, and oh my God, this was incredible. And sauteed onions and stuff like this. I mean, this wasn't just warming up like a pan of lasagna or making like spaghetti or hot dogs. I mean, so when we made these meals, like this was really, really some sophisticated stuff, right? Like, we put a lot of time into this. I mean, because people are worth it. I mean, so that's cool. And we often, a couple of times, my daughter volunteered too. She came in and she kind of worked the dessert area, making sure things got replenished and stuff like that. But and I would stay afterwards, and then we'd take everything down, sweep the floors, get everything all put away. And so, but yeah. Anyway, so I'll binge watch, laugh aloud. So, all right, Patty, right. Anyway, I appreciate anybody the hours. I always feel bad, and it feels wrong to say that, like to watch or have it on the background, because I know when people do that on YouTube, I'm like, well, don't, like, these are the people who that's their full-time job, and then they're trying to get more views and money. Like that, I think, is one thing. For me, I'm just genuinely trying to get to that threshold of being able to monetize, which needs more hours. So it's right. I've got the number of viewers. I just don't have the number of hours. So if you guys can watch, appreciate it. Jim DeCarl, I donate to Market Street Mission. Thank you for that. It is Vanessa Kitty. Hey, Vanessa Kitty. Hello. And let's do here. I think it was only, this is from Patty, about 20 years ago that the Lions Club allowed women in. I didn't know that. I was one of the first few ladies that was a member. 61. Okay. Wow, I didn't know that. We have the Masons in town too, and they had this really awesome like 100-year-old building that the courthouse took eminent domain over about 5 years ago when the courthouse expanded, and then the Masons moved to some building downtown that they rent now. But this original building was really ornate, and then they allowed people to come in and just take things, right? Like, if you want to take this fixture, take this wall plate or whatever, just and make an offer for it, but you had to like bring your own screwdriver or whatever, get it down. I never went to that. I should have. But there were certain things. Yeah, I don't know. We have an Elks Club. I feel like I should be a part of one of these. So let's go to this one. We have 2 more articles left. This one is from Spectator World, our good friends at Spectator World. And I think this is going to prove accurate. I'm going to add it to the stream here. And I'm going to take a sip of coffee. So, all right. All right. Okay. So a few things, everybody. Thank you for the 17 thumbs up. I appreciate it. If you haven't given a thumbs up, please do so. Please post down below in the comments section. Say, hey, here's something I want to expand on from Face Validity Friday, or here's something I think you should include for next week's Face Validity Friday. And I likely do that. I respond to all comments. So please do that. So here is this article from Spectator World. This one is titled "Pro Sports Can Lead Us Out of Pandemic Insanity. Let Asymptomatic Sportsmen Play," December 20th, 2021, by Stephen L. Miller. So let's read a little bit into this. With the emergence of the, let's get this, here we go. With the emergence of the Omicron variant, a new COVID pandemic has swept through the country, driven by twin forces: the New York and DC based national media and professional sports leagues. The National Hockey League suspended games through December 26th and all cross border games until December 23rd. National Football League scrambled through the rescheduled games based on over 150 players entering COVID protocols. Games were suspended regardless of vaccination status. Okay. So basically, this goes on, and it's saying right here, pro athletes are some of the fittest human beings on the planet and are dosed up with multiple vaccinations. Most are in their 20s. To call these protocols a charade would be a disservice to charades. Pro sports leagues have been playing for 15 weeks to sold out stadiums and arenas with no mass breakouts of any kind, and should develop the kind of common sense measures that the NFL has adopted. Should get on with their games. So here's basically the theme of this article, is saying, okay, we can talk about schools going back online in New Jersey, right? We can talk about other restrictions on gatherings and things like this. But the reality is these pro sports teams are still playing. They're doing a little bit of shuffling right now because of the way they wrote their protocols. But the NFL still has full stadiums. Lambeau Field seats 81,000 for the Green Bay Packers. The players are still playing, right? So it's at some point, right? And they've changed the rules, so the testing is not quite as frequent, or like the levels of whatever coming up on the testing, to relax it somewhat so more players can play. So let asymptomatic sportsmen play. If these teams keep playing, and there's a huge financial incentive for this, right? Big TV contracts, commitment from the fans, paying for tickets and all of that, for the communities getting the influx of cash. It's going to be very difficult to see a future. Look at the bowl games, the Rose Bowl, California having, all of these, record setting number of cases and mandates and stuff like that. Yet, the NFL has multiple teams: the Rams, the Chargers, the 49ers. So in California, the bowl games, which will be played here over the next week in California with, 100,000 people at the Rose Bowl. So if this stuff continues, right, if these professional sports teams continue to play without relatively, much interruption, might have to reschedule a couple of games or change a few things, but they're still playing, right? They're still playing. They're still obviously in close proximity when they, most of the time, right? In locker rooms, buses, on the field, right? You see them. So if they do, and they have, fans and the packing the stands and stuff like that, there is going to be this face validity part where all of us are going to look at this and say, well, why is this happening when I can't go to whatever, this store now, or something is deemed, the store has to do outdoors, or restaurant outdoor seating, or there's this, essential, non-essential stuff coming in. Basically, what if all of this is, as we're told by media, all this is spiking, hospitals are overwhelmed, everything. Why aren't the sports teams, the professional sports teams, why hasn't this halted? Or why isn't this going back to last year where the fans aren't there? Because wouldn't it seem if the players are now increasing positive, test rates, that the fans would also be doing the same? I mean, wouldn't that kind of just seem logical? So this, as a face validity, the point of this would be, it's like everything closing down again, except you can go in and to your 80,000 seat stadium and watch your team play, or you can go to a bowl game and watch everybody play, right? And sit shoulder to shoulder with people in, cramped areas and concourses, and wait for 40 minutes to use the bathroom, and in a line, and all this stuff. So again, phase validity is like, what's the real message here? If this is as high of a concern as what the media, and I guess medical community, CDC, whatever, is portraying it, why are pro sports still playing? And even if they've, considering that they've had the testing, why don't they shut down? Or why aren't they shutting down for the safety of their fans, or obviously the safety of their players? So this is going to be powerful, because at some point, to have these counter narratives going on, they just look at a face validity standpoint really strange. It's like someone who's told you have to work from home, you're remote from, or New Jersey, right? Your kids are going to be home or whatever, and we can't do this and whatever. But the Jets, I know the Jets aren't going to make the playoffs, but if the Jets were to, be in the playoffs, right? Like you could take your kids to the game, right? Or you could go see the basketball team, or whatever it is, or the or the college basketball teams. You could go to the 20,000 seat arena, like that'd be okay. So, but I do think this is I think this is going to happen. I don't think pro sports is going to shut down, and I think they're going to force the hand of face validity. People are just going to be like, well, why? It's like we're all in this together. Well, no, we're not. I mean, here's Tom Brady. I mean, here are people making millions of dollars who are millionaires who still get to play a game, and it's not shut down. And everybody's in the stands, and like, just, I don't know when this picture was taken. Third quarter game against the Saints. So this one was this week, but look at everybody there, no mask. Not 6 feet apart, just ridiculous, right? Like if you were to contact trace, like at my kids' school, like we'd be getting phone buzzes all the time. Hey, they were in close proximity if anybody here had tested positive. It's just, so interesting story, right? So I think pro sports is going to force the hand. So please subscribe and smash that like button. Let's go over to comments, and then we do have one more article to go through. Okay, this is from Carl. Jim, Market Street. I donate because I went there and saw what they're doing in Newark and Morrison, New Jersey. They earned my trust. So talking about making sure you know who you're donating to, where the money is going. Jim McIntosh, there's the Legion. When I went to join the VFW, I didn't meet their requirements as I was never in theater combat zone. In my case, did not go to Iraq. The Legion is less picky about this stuff. Okay, and thanks for pointing that out. I didn't know. So it might be the American Legion that did the ballpark in my town. But yeah, those organizations in my town, we have like a regional one, like it's a newer, it was built like 10, 15 years ago. But yeah, they're dwindling. I mean, there just are, again, fewer people. Carl wrote to Jim, Habitat works for me because I've donated, bought for them, good exchange. So good. Oh, here's Solitude Surfer. You did a great thing with that ballpark doc. So yeah, I didn't do it to be recognized. I did it because I was inspired with the signs of the distance in the outfield. I was inspired by seeing my community improve the ballpark where I played as a kid, right? Where I played little league and stuff like that. So I was like, I'm going to contribute to this too. So I was the only one, kids. There'd be kids out there who'd always be raking the infield and stuff like that to get out the little stones or things like that and cleaning the place up. And so save the Hill Valley Clock Tower. That is Phil Henry. Phil is talking about Back to the Future, and you need to save the clock tower. So, and I'm old, save Ferris. So be like DLD. Everybody like send flowers and things like that to get better. So Ted, hey Ted, good man at Carl for a good woman. So Ted, thank you for showing up here, and yeah, thanks for contributing some ideas for this show. And yeah, Carl did a great show and contributed to an important section in my book. So Carl to Ted, oh no, now we're both here. Dave, close the drawbridge. Vanessa, I carry a folding set of scissors in my EDC. So yeah, it's a good thing. I don't think I have a knife, smaller knife. I don't have folding scissors though, but that would make sense. Good thinking. Yeah. So Jim, former Marine Radio, Bubba here. All right, Jim and Vanessa, yeah, everyone binge watch and take notes. Even fishing, you can be binging the same day. Yes, it is. I don't know what's happening because honestly, like today I lost 7 hours of view compared to yesterday. Yet I had the show on Monday, and so I when I went into DuckDuckGo, I know some of my stuff doesn't show up. It actually appears, right? We can do this on DuckDuckGo. It appears as censored. And I think that is because of certain words I've used, and that's what draws the censors. So, but that's where, and that's with the getting recommended for views and stuff like that. So that's where the community comes in, you guys, and help help that out, because somebody pointed that out to me maybe a month ago or something and said, hey, like check out your stuff in DuckDuckGo and specifically like whatever. And I'm like, whoa. So like a ton of stuff shows up in Google, but there was an article. There was a pretty significant article about the Teachers Association, or National School Board Association. And one of my tweets was in there. You know how they take tweets and put them in, and even though I'm not a blue check. So, and I was like, holy smokes, like that never showed up in Google, but it showed up in DuckDuckGo. So, but yeah, I think that's why too, I'm going to blend in a few shows that are going to be not with any of these buzzwords or themes going on. But anyway, let's go down. Politicians creating proclamations. This is Vanessa to wear mask, but they are found to be flying private planes to events and don't wear masks. Do as I say, not as I do. Yeah. What was it? Former President Obama's birthday celebration. I had a friend who's a pilot who tracked the private planes coming in and out of the airport and close by, and it was literally hundreds of planes. So he had all of the data down, but it's like having the global warming summit and everybody flies their plane to the summit instead of doing it by Zoom or something like that. It's just crazy, just crazy. So, so it is our good friend Ted. Ted, I hope you're following the show. You're a good friend of the show, and Ted, you can start to binge watch. I suggest starting with the episode with Carl, then heading over to Lee Jarvis, then heading over to the David Hyde episode number 15. It's our good friend, the Ag Riser. Ag Riser, hey buddy, stopping in late. Hey, glad you're here. Glad you're here. I have our last article of the day. So here we go. This is for our good friend Carl, who drives that silver car up above. So let's picture Carl's car. All right. Yep. So Has a 3-stall garage. He parks it right in the center. Puts up little flexible bollards around it, so you keep it safe. There's Carl's car right there. So pretty cool. All right, but here's really the headline. Dow jumps 260 points, rising for a second day as investors look past Omicron threat. This is by Yoon Lee and Tanya Michelle, published December 21st. Since this was published, the stock market went up. The Dow Jones, right? Overall markets went up on the 22nd and yesterday, the 23rd. So 3 days in a row. So a week ago, the market was shedding, 500 points a day and stuff like that. So the headline's right. David Muir, ABC News, and I just hate that, by the way. But, markets rattled. Are we going to all of this stuff? I mean, just to scare people. So in this, there were two things at play, this and then interest rate hike, which usually puts a lid on stocks outside of like Prudential and MetLife and insurance stocks, which kind of they do better in higher interest rates. But anyway, okay, let's look for face validity at this. A week ago, the stock market was down, significantly, had a bad week, although it was still up. So it started the year at about 30,000, the Dow. And then I think somewhere around last week, it was maybe about 34,000 after hitting almost 36 as a high. So still up, for the year. But so yeah, the whole thing was a week ago was this pitch black narrative, markets crashing, everything's going bad, Omicron's going to shut down everything. But what does Wall Street do here? So let's look at face validity. So face validity is, and Wall Street is not Main Street. I get that. Wall Street's not Main Street, but we know right back in March, April, May of 2020, the market, shed 10,000 points. I mean, everybody was selling, everybody was terrified. But okay, the face validity on this is the traders, the people who professionally are involved in the markets. Now, this is a 3-day thing. This was Wednesday, now Thursday, and no, it was Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, because markets closed today. Those days have all been up. So between those days, about a 600-point gain, 3 days in a row. So this means Wall Street is looking at this and saying, no, this isn't going to shut everything down. The face validity here is Wall Street's not rattled by this. So this is one of those things where, again, a week ago, the media was telling us the market is going to collapse because of the shutdowns. There could be other market, things at place, right? Obviously, but markets go up and down. But know that it was definitely on a trajectory that it was falling apart because everything was going to shut down. Now we've had 3 straight days of big gains. So from face validity, what the market is telling us is this whole thing of how it's being portrayed as this as really bad and taking over the country. It's hard to accept that narrative when the market isn't reflecting that, right? Or even if the market was neutral, or you would expect from face validity, you would expect that the market would go down because what's changed, right? What changed in Omicron from 1 week ago today to now? What has changed that would positively impact the markets? So yeah. So this is, again, from a phase validity standpoint, this doesn't match the hype, right? It doesn't match the ABC News. It doesn't match all of these guidelines and, the stark thing from, right, the message from President Biden in the White House of you're going to have this horrible winter, and Biden message about see if we can find that again. because I just thought that was so bad. So, let me, I don't, okay, stay with me. Dun, or I'll say, I'll do the jingle bells, jingle bells, jingle all the way. Oh, what fun it is to ride in a one-horse open sleigh. Hey, jingle bells, jingle all the way. Oh, what fun it is to ride in a one-horse open sleigh. Well, this is disheartening. I can't find this, but anyway, so anyway, I think you saw it, where where President Biden said it's going to be like a, a miserable, horrible, bad, grinchy Christmas if you haven't been vaccinated and all this stuff. And it was just horrible messages. Go back to Woodrow Wilson and the messaging during World War I, through the 4-Minute Men, the Committee for National Morale, and World War II, FDR's fireside chats, messaging during dire times. Nothing ever this, how should I say, like just unprofessional from an administration. But so, yeah, so especially with that coming out from the White House of saying it's going to be this horrible, bleak, dark, and winter and hospitals are going to be overrun and all this stuff. And the Dow Jones to be up 600 points in the last 3 days. It doesn't match face validity. So, yeah. Also doesn't match face validity, right? That airlines are still flying, right? Well, even though like kind of like they're shutting down because of staffing shortages, but they're not canceling because of virus. You can still fly where you want. It's the busiest it's going to be. And so let's get over here to the chat. This is from Vanessa. Yes, Jim, most civilians do not interact with veterans, which I think is a shame. Bolo, the personal savings rate went down. People are spending. So, yeah. Yep, you got it. So that contributes to this, right? And so, yeah, thanks. We don't hear that narrative as much. Jim, yeah, leadership, it's the few flinging everything at the money. Yep, at the many. Yep. Or what is the name of the transformer based inside the Earth? I don't know. No, Hadron, is it the Hadron Collider? So, Hadron Collider. There, and I didn't cuss. So, Jim, once they redefined leadership, I became an outlaw. White House lifting Omicron travel bans on South African countries, yet hundreds of Christmas Eve flights canceled here. Yeah, Ted, see, right on. So Ted did a terrific face validity check right there. So from a face validity standpoint, like right at this, if this is the hitch right here, right? The hang up. So you're like, okay, the ban has been lifted on South Africa, yet there are hundreds of Christmas Eve flights canceled here. So like, why? Like, what is going on with this? I think the reason some of the flights are being canceled is because of some of the requirements now of staff, but it's not because of the fear, right, of spreading a virus and things like that. So, right. It doesn't make and like you would in a face validity thing, as we went through back in March and April of May of 2020 of how long it took to try to figure out, and people saying, oh, we don't know with how the virus spreads, how long it's in the air, and we're studying all this stuff. And now suddenly like this comes out and it seems like everybody knows in the know in the community is able to know everything about it in a week and able to alter, boosters and stuff to match it, to counter it. I don't know, but that's a really good face validity check right there, saying, why is this happening? And then it would seem like this wouldn't go together. Vanessa said we got 3 inches of snow after midnight. So I've only used my snowblower once. We have no snow on the ground right now. Jim wrote, I suppose I could have used the word scat. Jim. Vanessa, you mean the iron core? That's from Carl, what's center of the earth? Condescending from administration. Yeah, Ted. It was condescending. And condescending and frightening, right? So if I've never seen anything like that. I mean, even because in the velocity of information, I mean, I went through hundreds of documents putting that together, studies, and I went through, many of FDR's fireside chats and his speeches and presidential speeches from the past and so forth and stuff like that. FDR would go after Hitler. It was kind of interesting the way he would do that in his speeches sometimes, but I've never seen this before. This condescending and threatening. And imagine if you're 7 years old, you haven't been approved for a vaccination, and somehow you're trying to process this. Or imagine if you have some, medical condition where your provider is saying, "Don't be," and now you're getting this statement of coming out of, or somebody elderly or somebody with dementia or autism or whatever it is, sensory processing. And I mean, it's a cruel state. It's a cruel way to frame things. It is, it's just nasty. It's not professional. It's a loss of dignity. Vanessa wrote, unicorn, so close to Omicron. So there are 4 lights. Bradley International Airport seems quite busy. I live next to it. All right, Vanessa. Gotcha. Marty, this is my favorite doc. He hasn't made me do a prostate check yet. Is that, are you going back to Aaron Clary's shows? So I remember that Aaron included that public service announcement in his shows. Maybe like 5 years ago, I just kind of eased off on that. So Cologuard is the headquarters just 40 minutes away from where I live, though. So if there's going to be a sponsor of this show, could be Cologuard. So Jim, my mom on 3rd jab made her ill, but she's getting better this time. So glad she's getting better. Vanessa wrote, that public service announcement on the White House website is atrocious. Absolutely the worst thing a commander-in-chief could ever say. Yeah. Vanessa, you're right. And from a face validity standpoint too, who looked at that, right? Like that would have to go through several levels of people before that would be approved. It's not like emergency messaging. And then they decided to do that. And also the fact of you're just alienating people. You're just making people angry. And just distasteful. It's so, I don't know. It's appalling. I don't have any other word for it than simply appalling. Vanessa wrote, being retired United States Air Force, he is indeed still my commander-in-chief. Nobody got the lights reference, so I've been watching. It's a lot of chat stuff, but keep going, buddy. Ted, Collective 0009 in Anthem World Council, cruel condemnation. So it's a statement that I would, my book is already done, right? So being typeset and things, I can't add things to it, but I would definitely take that statement from the White House and I would add that to the book right now if I could, because it is just, I didn't think we'd ever get to that. It's just so appalling. Holy smokes. Yeah. So Marty wrote, I have a close friend that died a week after and another that had stroke 3 days. Oh my goodness. So I'm so sorry to hear that. Yeah, absolutely. Ted, 5 lights. Okay. Carl to Jim, something that Ted did. Okay. Well, you guys are having a good discussion. I just can't keep Jim. Oh my goodness. That's funny. Pat Had to get my third next week because of my age, other issues. My doctor recommended, so I will. Okay. Jim, it's a long time since I watched that episode. Probably misremembered. Okay. So, all right. Well, let me touch on a few things. So let's do Vanessa here. Vanessa wrote, and putting out that only the unvaccinated need testing for virus, etc., for schools is again nuts. As a school teacher, everyone should be tested since the virus still spreads from vaccinated. Yeah, and one of the things, Vanessa, is, and I'm going to put this slide up right now because I shared this on Monday night's show. So I'm a former school administrator, right, for 20 years, and I teach school administrators at a university level, and I want to show you that right here. Okay, so what I'm going to show you, and I'll have to, okay, I don't know if I can get my audio, but I'm going to show you a slide. I'll just put it up there so you can look at it. In my state, every year, districts, we have 421 school districts. They are required to submit that what their compliance rates are for students with immunizations. And we're talking like mumps, measles, rubella, polio, stuff like that. So for last year, 2020-21, 32 out of 421 districts never even reported to the state, and 8%, Olay, nothing. And then others reported, and they had numbers of students that they had no idea. So now, if a student says, the parent files a waiver for exemption, that then counts as that the student has met criteria. So in these districts that have like 100 students that they don't know the data, they don't have waivers or records. So this is just for traditional, what districts have done for the last 30 years, right? And I remember this as an administrator, the nurse is gathering this data, entering it. So I'm going to put it up for a second so you can just see, like, this is where how wonky things are right now. Okay, so I'm back. I got to figure out how to do the audio overlay with that. But you could obviously see, or you can go back and just pause on that for a second. But whoa! So yeah, it's not going to work for schools to do that. That is it's a fallacy. They don't have the staff right now. They're having to combine classrooms. They're paying subs in the district where I attended when I was a kid. Small district, they're paying $180 a day for a sub, and they were paying like $100 a year ago. The subs aren't out there. So to think you're going to do this whole test to stay, but it was kind of the next move for CDC. They didn't have much else to go with. And when you did this, that was a compelling force for these districts like in New Jersey, right, Newark and other districts, to say we're not coming back after Christmas because they're not going to be able to fulfill this. It creates a legal liability for them. If someone sues and said, you weren't doing enough to protect my student to mitigate the risk, right? I talked about that at Lisa Lenny on a Safety Doc show. She's an attorney where we went through that in particular. So there's a lot going on with that. So Vanessa wrote, your slide for the immunization program is a good one, and how public health is falling behind. So that slide is also available at safetyphd.com. If you go there right now, it's the blog post that I wrote on Monday that's up there, and that slide is embedded in there if you want to check that out. So I put that together. I pulled that data myself out of publicly available databases. It's all cited. But it's really wonky, right? Like, and no one's covering it on the news of saying, hey, by the way, like, 32 school districts in our state have not reported anything about their traditional immunization stuff, which you're required. It's a state statute. There's fines and consequences involved in that, like 252.04, the statute, put it all in there. Yet, like, no one covers that. And now you're saying, oh, in addition, like, now we want you to do this, which will be much more intensive than this other thing. Now you have to be good at this too, while you're not even compliant with the other stuff. It's just ridiculous. Jim, ultra brief. Picard was a POW. All he had to do was get softer treatment. It was to lie about how many lights there were. A enhanced interrogation technique. Picard did not cave, but it wasn't close. Okay, now I kind of get what you're going with there. So thanks. Carl, do you believe your lying eyes or what we tell you? So yeah. So it's all about face validity, right? And observation. And the thing is, if people, I wrote about this in Velocity of Information, people typically just go with the headlines, more so today than ever before, and the research to back that. And like so remember well, I don't know if you do, but the airing of War of the Worlds broadcast in December 1st, 1938, I think. Or no, it's October 31st. I don't, but it was 1938. So radio station, right? And they're doing this drama of saying Martians are invading the Earth and all of that stuff. And what was happening is a number of people believed it was authentic. And what they did is they immediately called other people. I wrote about this in Velocity of Information. The researchers out of Princeton, studied this at the time, like right away afterwards. So they're trying to figure out why people got so terrified when a couple things. You could just change to a different radio station to try to like get more information. That other station wasn't covering this, right? So you'd be like, oh, like, why isn't this making the other news? Yeah. And they would call people. So they were calling and they were asking them if they heard about this. They were telling them Martians are invading the Earth. So they would just they would just spread these headlines, which happens today, right? People just do it. They text it over, like, so you're getting the same stuff without anybody verifying a headline. But yeah, so it's real important for people to share bad news versus like to do any research on it or sensationalized headlines. Share the headlines. Carl to Jim and you and Ted. No. Okay. Carl, you mean there's a teacher shortage and they're warehousing students? But she said this isn't happening. So yeah, you can pull up from the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics and things like that, the teacher shortages across the country, and pretty evident and prevalent. So is it New Jersey or was it Pennsylvania? Or I think it's Pennsylvania. Governor Wolf called in the National Guard to drive school buses because he didn't have bus drivers. So, but yeah, Monday night we talked about this whole thing with this whole test to stay is a logistics nightmare. So it's not viable with the CDC. So it was kind of their next pivot. They were running out of pivots, and then districts look at that and be like, no, we're going remote. So Ted wrote, I heard a teacher in November saying he's one of those not wearing a mask and letting kids not wear a mask. So yeah, pretty polarizing. It depends upon how your schools, and there's no inter-rated reliability across schools. So 421 school districts in Wisconsin. It's different. Some counties like Dane County, where Madison is close to me, has a mask mandate. So everybody there does, but otherwise it's district by district what they do. So sometimes within a district, it's school to school, whether it's school-based, site-based management. So it's real crazy. Public health is nonsense. It's your health and leave me alone. So yeah. Let's go down here through the comments. Bolo, is it coincidence that the Martian problem was cured by the common cold? Right. The common cold took out the Martians. So War of the Worlds. Yeah. I never thought of that irony. So Vanessa, so spreading bubonic plague is not an issue. All manner if viruses and bacteria, etc., that cause great devastation. So, yeah. You know what? We also have, and people tend to forget this, right? It, I wrote a journal article about this. I don't know, 2-3 years ago. It was before COVID, maybe 3 years ago. It was about MRSA, the flesh eating bacteria, right? And becoming more of a problem in schools, hospitals, places. And it was President Obama who issued an executive order saying that he needed people to these places to report instances of MRSA. Um, and there would be this federal database by the year 2020. And there is no federal database on that, by the way. But I looked into this a couple of weeks ago, and the issue hasn't gone away. So MRSA is still out there. MRSA is still a problem. It's still a growing problem, but we don't hear about it. But there was this big push, and it was going back on the news, especially even my local news. It was in one school district. A student had contracted a MRSA in a weight room they found or something like that. But so here we go. Another book to read, My Poor Shelves, Jim. So Jim, math teacher shortage next fall. Watch headlines then. Yeah. Jim, there's a computer program to teach math. I have a copy. It runs on Windows. This is the only program I have that I haven't found Linux analog for. Gotcha. MRSA and C. diff are way worse than this nonsense. You're right, Carl. They're horrible. And yeah, going back to that article, if you type in my name plus like MRSA article or bacteria or something, whatever, like it'll come up. And like it was a 1 or 2 page article, but it was very interesting because there was this massive push from the White House, and then it just fell apart. From pre-algebra to differential EQ. Yeah, MRSA is endemic to environment. It was reportable since my active duty days. Yep. Vanessa. Yep. Where will we point fingers at us? Not the dumb regulations and poor education tactics from Carl. And Ted wrote, math teacher shortage, more like hiring shortage. It's cheaper to hire a long-term sub than a contracted teacher. Yeah. And I'm going to do a show on this someday. In my state, a number of new superintendents hire agencies to help them find jobs. Basically, you're hiring an agent to get you the job. Now, of course, your merits and everything like that too, but you're paying so much to a search firm. This is very prevalent in my state. I don't like it at all. I think it's a garbage practice, and these people, but so they'll, so let's say like I want to become I'm a superintendent. I'm looking for a job somewhere. I pay so much into the search agency for superintendents. They know the jobs that are out there, then they're contacting on my behalf and saying, hey, we've got this great candidate and stuff. Then they try, they get you the interview, and basically then they're working with the district, and they're saying, you hire this person, right, that we bring to you, we get a finder's fee. So if they stay with you initially, you hire them, we get so much. If they stay with you a year, we get this much. And you will see that with teachers somewhere. Someone's going to come up with that in this year, this upcoming school year. You will see teachers, especially math, chemistry, speech language, some of these hard to find areas. You're going to find them contacted by recruiters, or basically agents who say, these things are free agent, they're negotiable right now, and basically sign with me, and I will, let's pick some places, and then if you get an interview, if you get the job, I get a $3,000 or $5,000 payment, but you are going to get $10,000 above your current salary, and plus, like, you're going to see that will happen this year in places. So I'm scanning right now the articles for it because it's logical. And I know that the way school boards work right now, and that they're individually negotiating these contracts, and it already happens for school superintendents, and it's going to happen for some of the teachers. So you're going to have your agents, believe it or not. Vanessa wrote, Connecticut, most of New England and many other states require master in math to continue licensure. So yeah, It's also kind of weird that we don't have a more universal state-by-state licensure for educators. I think my pay bracket shall be higher next fall. So, yeah, hope so, right? So, well, everybody, a few things here in closing. So, yeah, thanks for the 20 thumbs up. Thanks for watching this show. There will not be a safety doc on Monday night. No, I'm not going to say that. I thought Monday was the 25th. It's Christmas. There might be one on Monday night. We'll have to see. I'm not sure. We have some family things happening, and it kind of has to evolve around that. It's more like how long people stay at our house. So I'll post a notice, but there possibly might be a break from the show on the upcoming week, but not on Face Validity Friday. We'll be back here a week from today. So everybody, I'm wishing you a very Merry Christmas, a happy holiday season. And before we go here, I want to bring somebody back here who's been wanting to bring in the show. Just a second. Well, hi everybody. Thanks there, Doc. This is your good friend Santa from the North Pole. A little glitchy here, so I'm not going to stay on long, but I'm wishing everybody a happy birthday, including our good friends Carl and Vanessa. So goodbye. This is Santa. Well, hey there, look at Santa cutting back in. I don't know if he was impersonating my voice, but it seemed like he kind of was. So, but yeah, that was Santa coming back and wishing everybody here a Merry Christmas. And oh, wait a second, it is our friend Phil Henry is coming back in for just a second. So just a second. Hi everybody, this is Phil Henry from Germany, and I just want to say thanks to this show and the Safety Doc, and for all the good work. Looking forward to the new book coming out. And again, I'm Phil Henry. This is Germany. And have a good day, everybody. Well, Phil, hey, thanks for stopping in. So I'm getting better at cutting you guys in and out. So there's Phil in Germany. He's still out there hiking on that road. Hope you got some water with you, buddy. Looks kind of warm, but good to be out. Good weather. So let's enjoy the holidays. Is awesome. So we have from Phil here. Thank you for the show. Thank you for everything being here. Thank you, Vanessa. And thank you for you being here, being in the chat and supporting the show and being a regular for that. Thank you. Enjoy your Christmas holiday. Awesome as always. Thank you, Phil. Same to you. Enjoy Christmas. Merry Christmas, Ted. Merry Christmas, Carl. Merry Christmas, Jim. Vanessa, well done. Merry Christmas. Vanessa. Hey, it's our good friend, Gun Websites in the deserts of Germany. Yep. He finds them. That is Merry Christmas, Gun Websites. Merry Christmas, Vanessa. So again, everybody, take care. Have a safe and happy holiday season. Appreciate others. The kind words, just a smile, things like that you lend to other people, or somebody, a cashier, somebody helping you, just a neighbor, or whatever it is, people you interact with, that goes a long way. You never know what it means to somebody. I remember in summer when I would do like a long walk around our town, there was this one car parked in a driveway, and there was a bumper sticker on the back, and the bumper sticker said, "I hope something good happens to you today." And I always paused at that and thought that was just a kind of a neat thing to do, like to have on that car, like this, that statement, and to genuinely wish that for others, to hope something good happens to other people. Just because right now, right, just smiles, positive things are kind of in short supply. So when you do that, that makes a difference to other people, and people recognize face validity. The more you do that, Merry Christmas, yeah, Jim, your Merry Christmas. Yeah, the more you do face validity, the more you use I observe. People notice that they'll pick it up, and they'll start to emulate that. They'll do that behavior too. So you'll be shaping the behavior of others in a positive way. So, all right. Well, I'm going to bring in a little snowfall here as I work my way out of here. But everybody, thank you so much. We're up 1,040 subscribers. I do need more watch hours over there at safetyphd.com. A ton of shows, great interviews. We have Carl. We have Lee Jarvis. We have Clay Martin was a super one. Larry Lawton, America's Biggest Jewel Thief, all of those. So snow I'm bringing in here for Christmas. And I am wishing everybody a very Merry Christmas. And I will see you next week. Same place, same time. Take care, everybody.